Hello and welcome to the Grow Landscapers 10-minute business tip series, a show that gives you bite-sized nuggets of wisdom in just 10 minutes. I'm Nick Ruddle, and today we have an amazing guest all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Many of you may have read his #1 Amazon best-selling book, Systemology, the man who has genuinely cracked the code of how to systemize a business. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you the systems genius, that is Mr. David Jenyns. How you doing?
Wow, thank you. And yeah, an absolute pleasure to be here with you, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really pleased, really honoured that you decided and agreed to come on. I think it's going to be so beneficial for all those landscapers out there that struggle with systemizing or not getting the freedom that they want and not being able to get where they need to go and be efficient and profitable. So as we know, it's a difficult industry to make a lot of profit, but with your help and your tips, I'm sure it's going to help them to achieve that. So yeah, let's get cracking, shall we?
Let's do
Okay,
it.
okay. So, we've got some different questions for you, because of what you do and all around efficiencies and systems, really. So, number one, well, we've got 10 minutes, so it's now 10 past, so we'll be good to go as of now. So, first one is, as you know, many landscapers struggle to get off the tools. What are some of the key steps they can take to get themselves off the tools?
Really common because a lot of landscape gardeners know how to do the technical work, and then they quickly discover that running a business that delivers the technical work requires a bunch of extra skills. But because they know how to do the technical work, it kind of ties them onto the tools. The real key is if you were going to start anywhere, it's you have to start with one product or service and get very clear on a primary product or service that you might sell as a gateway or as a way for someone to get started with you before they might engage with more advanced products and services. So get very clear on what that is. And then just imagine that it was blue skies, everything went perfectly. The client said yes, took all of your options and went through with no hiccups. You imagine that scenario and then you just capture, well, what would happen in that scenario? And you just think very high level to start with. That's really the first step in getting off the tools is getting clear, well, what is it that needs to be done for the business to make money?
Mm,
And once you capture that, that's the first step in making it transferable. Because a
mm,
lot of it you just do automatically without thinking because you've done it many times before. And you might not realize that there is a rhyme or a reason to the way that you do things. But when you stop just for a moment, step back, focus in on that central primary product or service, and just start there and go, what is it that am I doing and capture that? That's usually the first step.
yeah. So basically, what you described there is the customer journey from inquiry through to money in the bank and getting repeat business. Nothing else, none of the other systems, but just the system, just the part that makes you money for your business.
Yeah, and think of how you attract the leads into your business, how you would handle that inquiry, how you would sell them into whatever that primary product or service is. Is there any data that you need to collect? Do you need to put them into a jobs management platform? You need to get it booked in on your calendar. Then you need to go out. Is there anything that you have to do prior to going out to make sure that the truck's stocked and you've got all of your equipment ready to go and filled up with petrol and you've got everything that you need? And then on site, maybe there's certain things that you do, the way that you greet the client, the way that you set up the equipment, the way that you do the work, and the way that you close off and issue an invoice with them and say, fantastic, when can I book you in for your next job? Or do you have any friends or family that you would like to refer? That journey, and which really is the guts of how you make money, you
Yeah.
want to get very clear on what that is. That's always the starting point because if you can't make that one bit repeatable, then you're not going to be able to make all of the other complex products and services repeatable. So just start with one simple product or service and really focus on what is it am I doing here so that you start on the path to going and how do I make that repeatable?
Right. Brilliant. So quote, well, inquiry to quote to getting ready. the sales process to getting ready for the job, starting the job, and then invoicing and stuff like that. Brilliant. Okay, cool. Right, let's go on to the next question. So look, we know that a lot of people don't get round to it, or they find it difficult to document their processes. So how can a landscaper go about documenting their processes? 'Cause most of them don't like it or don't know where to start.
Yeah, really, it's about thinking who, not how. So it would be who could help you to document and do some of getting these systems down. And it could be oftentimes landscape gardeners, the husband and wife team, where you'll have the wife who maybe does the book and some of the administration stuff, and then you've got the husband who's out there doing the landscape gardening. So in scenarios like that, it could be to have a chat with the wife and empower her, let her know what it is that you're trying to do here and get her on board. Give her a copy of Systemology and say, look, I want to try and do my best to get off the tools, and this is a system that I can follow to get there. So that's a great option. Another option could be to get a junior apprentice. And we touched on this just before we started recording. I know that there are some options to get different grants, to get someone who's starting out and maybe they're a little bit more comfortable with the tech. They're just
Mm,
young and hungry to learn and get started, and you make it part of their role that they're going to watch you do some of those tasks that we talked about and record them. Maybe it's on their phone to start with, or a little GoPro or some sort of little handy cam, and actually record you setting up the equipment or meeting with the client or writing up the invoice or whatever it might be. Record little videos for those tasks, because then they can take those videos away, and there's some things we can do with AI to really speed up the documentation process to then turn those videos into little checklists. And it might be, here's the 10-step checklist on how to prepare the truck the night before you go out on a job to make sure that you've got all the equipment,
mm,
that the car is filled with fuel, that you've got extra whippersnipper blades, or just all of those things are taken care of, so that when you're on site, you can do the best job. And just little tasks like that, again, very easy to plug a junior person in who's wanting to learn it anyway, and just make it part of their process to capture it and document it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. A lot of the inefficiencies in a lot of businesses are because people haven't done what they're supposed to have done. Either they haven't ordered materials, or they haven't got the right tools on the van. They haven't filled up the night before, so they're getting late to site. They're leaving early sometimes. It's all those little things that multiply into tens of thousands of pounds of inefficiencies straight off your bottom line.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
and
so
with
go on.
with that as well, quite commonly with juniors, like when they come on board, they sometimes don't like asking questions if they feel like it's a silly question and it's something maybe that they feel they may have been taught before, so they don't ask, and then they make a silly mistake. Whereas if you're able to build up some of this documentation and have something that they can reference, they can watch a little video or follow a little checklist, and they can do it in their own time, or they can scan a little QR code that you've stuck
Mm,
to the lawnmower that
mm,
pops up the process on their phone, and they can go through the checklist themselves. Little things like that mean that they can solve some of their own problems, and it starts to reduce errors for
mm.
them as well, and really can help keep them safe.
Yeah. Think about the technology we now all have at our fingertips. They've all got a phone with a camera or a video on it. Like you say, QR codes, we've got software, we've got AI, and the younger generation, I'm 50 next year, so, I'm feeling a bit old, but these kids have grown up with technology. It's very, very familiar for them. So who better to do it than an apprentice that you can get on a government grant here in the UK and
Yeah,
helps to fund that.
right on point with, they're already comfortable looking at YouTube videos and things like that. A lot of landscape gardeners and people getting into the industry, they will go to YouTube to look up how-to videos, how to lay the irrigation, how to do lawn care, there's a range of different things like that that they're just used to. So if you can instead slightly retrain them and say, well, we've effectively got our own YouTube here in the way that we do things. And when you've got a problem, you go here and ask that question.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So it sort of takes all the complexity out of it, really. What some owners might feel is complicated, younger people might think, yeah, that's easy. I get it because they're just so used to it. So which also leads me into my next question, funnily enough. Number three is how do you think AI is going to impact landscapers?
Look, I think just like every industry, every role, every position, every team member is going to get impacted and affected by AI, whether it's an administrative person behind the scenes, or over time, it's out in the field. I mean, from landscape gardening, design and planning and visualization, for customer interactions, emails, even phone support will get taken over by AI. There's scheduling tools, following up, cost estimating. We obviously covered things like training and skills, but it's even going to move into sort of the real world when you look at maintenance, and we're seeing AI getting built into different technology, things like automatic lawn mowers, and the way that irrigation systems now can have a lot of really smart AI built into them. And we're only going to see that more and more.
Mm,
So, the best thing that you can do is to try and get comfortable with this technology, start to adopt it, start to have those discussions. It could be something like creating a trained custom GPT for those that have been playing around with Chat GPT, and you train it on your data, and then you get your team members, when they've got questions, they can ask the Chat GPT, the custom GPT that's trained on your data. So
mm,
there's lots of different ways that it can be used. Again, it's just a matter of starting to have conversations, listening to podcasts like this where you're hearing some of the new trends,
mm.
and then trying it, and if it feels a little bit scary, again, another reason to get one of those more junior team members on board who maybe are a little bit more comfortable, and say, hey, part of your role is I want you to capture process, and I also want you to explore some of these topics on AI and think about how we might be able to do things differently by leveraging some of these tools.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's the way forward. I mean, every single week, every month, I learn something more about how AI is evolving and developing. It's just so fast. It's rapidly growing, isn't it? And we just don't know what we don't know. So it's just about being inquisitive and going out there and finding out what is on out there. I mean, you could even use ChatGPT and say, how can a landscape gardener benefit
Yes.
from AI using AI software and stuff? So that's how easy it is, and you get a whole plethora of stuff come down, as you know. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Right, so look, I know we're sort of up on time now, David. Look, you wrote a wonderful book in systemology. I think a lot of people have read The E-Myth by your great friend Michael Gerber. Been out for the last 40 years. He literally sings your praises and says that systemology is not an option, it is a must, and you have to go to school. So I think people need to read the book, obviously, or listen to the book. Easy to get from Audible or anywhere else, and Amazon. But how else? What other first step could people take if they really want to actually start, looking into it in a lot more detail?
Yeah, so we've got a starter pack that we've put together for your audience. So I've put hand selected a few things. Like, if you don't yet have a copy of the book, it comes with the book and some training on AI, and uh, training program to help you just with that first step around getting very clear on what processes need to be documented, so that you can get that junior in to start doing it. And people can find out more about it. It's just at systemology.com/Nick. I know we'll probably pop a link to that in the show notes. That's
Mm,
systemology.com forward
yeah.
slash Nick. But it's a really very easy, accessible way to get started.
Mm,
And it's just about being consistent. You like, deep down, I think a lot of business owners know systems and processes are the key for getting them off the tools. So it's
mm,
just a matter of when. It's not a
mm,
matter of if. You've got to do it, and the longer you put it off, it doesn't get any easier. So
mm,
you might
mm.
as well just get started now, and so you can start to have that change.
Yeah, I think it's also more than just getting off the tools. First phase is that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Second phase is how to build your freedom. How do you build a business that can potentially work without you and build the value in that? If one day you want to sell it or step away from it and keep the passive income, there's so many benefits, to having a systemized business, and there's no better way to do it.
In Australia, we have a franchise group called Jim's Mowing, which is very much one of the golden child as far as when it comes to business over here in Australia, and everybody looks to it, and it's so on point when we think about landscape gardeners and what's possible.
Mm,
This guy Jim Penman, who systemized his mowing business and got all the processes right and ended up creating his original business as a franchise prototype, and then went on to sell many thousands of these franchises around Australia and have now
wow.
branched out into many other industries and variations. So it's quite inspiring to see business owners do that to take it to the next level. And whether or not you have visions to do that or not, at the very least, I feel business owners need to have the freedom, like a lot of landscape gardeners, they start out their business thinking, I want freedom rather than me going work for someone else. I'm going to start my own business and then I'll have the freedom to run it. And then many of them quickly realize they don't have the freedom that they thought they would have because
Mhm.
they're tied to the business and the
Yeah.
business doesn't work unless they're working. And the truth is, if your business doesn't work when you're not working, you don't really have a business, you have a job. So, and
Mhm.
the way to step out and to actually have a business that works without you, that can generate income, is through
Mhm.
systems. So it really depends on the type of business that you need. But I believe every business owner deserves the choice to decide what it is that they want to do, work in it, on it, out of it, take a holiday, not take a holiday. They should at least get the choice.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure that Jim's not working on the tools anymore. That's for sure, with thousands of
No,
franchise sales. But look, it is easier than most people think, thanks to your methodology in systemology. Right, David, that is us done. I think we're up on time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Always great speaking to you. I know everyone's going to get a hell of a lot of value from this. I just hope people do take action, because if you keep doing what you've always done, you keep getting what you've always got. So sometimes, as Michael Gerber says, you gotta go to school, David.
that's
You gotta
it. Got to
learn
go
new
to
stuff
school.
to get new results. So really appreciate your time. I know it's about what, 9 or 10 o'clock in Australia. So get you let you get back to your family. And once again, massive thanks to you as always. Speak
My
to you soon.
pleasure.
Cheers, Dave. Bye bye.